About 60 miles north of Egypt's tourist hotspot, Sharm el-Sheikh, sits a place that's most beautiful and deadly. The blue hole of Dahab isn't much to look at from the shore, just a dim circle of deeper blue in the Red Sea's crystal waters. But this simple-looking site holds a grim record that's earned its nickname, like Diver's Cemetery and the world's most dangerous dive site. To understand why divers keep coming here despite its reputation, you need to know about one man, Tarek Omar. Since the late 1990s, he's become known by names that sound like they're straight out of a horror movie: the Bone Collector and the Gravekeeper. But these aren't nicknames he chose for himself. They're titles he earned doing one of diving's most somber jobs, recovering the bodies of those who never made it back to the surface. His first recovery mission in 1997 was for two Irish divers, Gara and Conor. The year was 1997, and Martin and Conor, two seasoned divers from Ireland, had their sights set on something more than just exploring the world's oceans. Both had years of experience under their belts. Martin, already an accomplished dive instructor, and Conor, eager to complete his instructor training, were well versed in the complexities of deep diving. They weren't just friends, but partners with a shared dream of starting a travel agency, offering dive tours across the world. It was supposed to be a routine dive. Martin and Conor had joined a PADI-certified group, diving with other experienced professionals. For all intents and purposes, this was meant to be just another day in the water. No reckless risks, no extreme depth challenges, just a casual exploration of Dahab's famed blue hole. At some point during the dive, Martin and Conor separated from the group. Perhaps it was a curiosity, or maybe the draw of going just a little bit deeper than planned. Whatever the reason, they ventured beyond the safety of their PADI diving group, descending past the recommended limits for their gas mixture. The deeper they went, the more the blue hole's dangers began to take hold. The pressure down there doesn't just squeeze your body, it changes the very air you're breathing. Below a certain depth, the gas mixture in your tank, designed for shallower, safer dives, starts to work against you. By the time they reached 65 meters, 213 feet, Martin and Conor were in serious trouble. The depth was too much for the gas mixture they had with them. At that level, the nitrogen in their air became a narcotic, impairing judgment, and oxygen itself becomes toxic. Physiological effects of deep diving can be unforgiving and happen so fast that even the most experienced divers can be caught off guard. It's believed that both men lost consciousness shortly after reaching that depth, their bodies succumbing to the overwhelming combination of pressure, nitrogen narcosis, and oxygen toxicity. When their fellow divers realized that Martin and Conor had gone missing, it was already too late. A frantic search ensued, but by the time the pair were found, both were unresponsive. There's only so long a body can survive without oxygen, and at 65 meters, time works against you in cruel and swift ways. Their bodies were recovered, but the depth, pressure, and lack of oxygen had already sealed their fate. Like many other blue holes, Dahab's blue hole was formed tens of thousands of years ago, during the ice ages when sea levels were drastically lower, around 100 meters, 330 feet lower to be precise. Rainwater slowly eroded the limestone rock beneath the surface, creating these massive underwater sinkholes that now dot oceans around the world. But what makes the blue hole here in Dahab stand out isn't just its beauty or history, it's the deadly complexity hiding below the surface. From above, it looks like a tranquil, turquoise pool surrounded by the craggy shore. But beneath the surface, it drops off abruptly, like the mouth of a funnel, narrowing as you go deeper. The outer edge is mostly stable rock, non-dissolving, and relatively safe, but the inner portion plunges into the darkness, reaching depths far greater than the surrounding sea floor. It's here that divers are pulled into the false sense of security, unaware that this dive site holds something far more dangerous than its peaceful surface suggests. Water circulation here is poor, and deeper down, oxygen is almost non-existent. It's isolated from the usual currents of the sea, which means that once you go deep enough, you're completely on your own. No drift, no pull from the ocean, just you and the oppressive stillness of the abyss. If the staggering depth wasn't enough, it's a blue hole's unique shape that seals its reputation as a death trap. While descending, the walls close in, narrowing like a massive funnel. Divers who push past the safe recreational limits find themselves in an eerie, constricting corridor that leads to one of the most dangerous sections, the arch. At 52 meters, 170 feet, this vast, seemingly inviting arch leads through a 26-meter-long, 85-feet tunnel, sloping diagonally toward the open ocean. But it's a trap. The funnel itself is deceptively disorienting, and as you descend through it, the depth increases dramatically, from 120 meters, 390 feet near the exit, to a bone-chilling 800 meters, 2,600 feet just beyond. This descent, combined with the tunnel's deceptive layout, leaves even the most experienced divers vulnerable to losing their sense of direction and falling victim to the overwhelming pressure of the depths. Divers can find themselves unintentionally dropping deeper and deeper, past the point where ordinary air becomes toxic. And before long, they're in an environment that's impossible to survive without the right preparation, and sometimes even with it, as we saw with Yuri Lipski. Yuri Lipski was no stranger to the deep. As an experienced diving instructor, he had spent countless hours beneath the waves, guiding others through the underwater world and navigating the challenges that come with deep diving. In April of 2000, however, Yuri made a solo plunge into the infamous Blue Hole in Dahab, a dive that would ultimately be his last. The day began with Yuri attempting to find dive partners to join him in exploring the Blue Hole. For reasons still unknown, whether due to impatience or a desire to tackle the dive alone, Yuri ultimately decided to go ahead without a partner. Yuri's plan was fatally flawed from the start. He was diving with regular air, a standard mix of oxygen and nitrogen, perfectly safe at shallower depths, but dangerously toxic once you venture too far down. It's well known among divers that regular air isn't recommended below 40 meters, 131 feet, where the effects of nitrogen narcosis can set in. But Yuri didn't stop at 40 meters. He pushed on, descending rapidly until he reached a depth of 81 meters, 265 feet. By this point, the effects of nitrogen narcosis would have been overwhelming, similar to being drunk, only the stakes were much, much higher. His ability to think clearly, make rational decisions, and control his descent were all compromised. Compounding the issue, Yuri's equipment wasn't suited for such a deep dive. The deeper you go, the greater the pressure, and his gear was simply too heavy for him to maintain proper control. His buoyancy control device, a crucial piece of equipment meant to help divers maintain neutral buoyancy, couldn't withstand the pressure either. At some point during the dive, likely as a panicked response to his rapid descent, Yuri overinflated the device in an attempt to regain control. The result was catastrophic. The device burst, leaving him with no way to stop his plunge into the depths. At 91 meters, 300 feet, Yuri was found later that day, lifeless. His body, weighed down by the very equipment meant to protect him, rested at a depth too deep for ordinary divers to safely reach. The camera he had taken with him was recovered, and when the footage was shown to his parents, it provided a devastating glimpse into the final moments of his life. What began as a regular dive spiraled into chaos as a narcosis took hold. The footage shows Yuri's increasing disorientation, the telltale signs of panic setting in as he struggled to control his descent. In those final minutes, Yuri is helpless, confused, his breathing fast and labored, until finally the camera cuts off, the weight of the ocean taking its toll. Tarek was one of the people tasked with retrieving the body of Yuri Lipski. At the time, it was the deepest recovery ever attempted, with Yuri's body resting at a staggering 91 meters, 300 feet. The dive to retrieve Yuri wasn't just technically difficult, it was emotionally harrowing. As Tarek descended into the depths, he knew the story behind the death, and he would soon be face to face with the remains of a fellow diver whose final moments were recorded for all to see. The camera recovered along with Yuri's body would go on to serve as a stark warning to divers worldwide. Despite his expertise, there are still many bodies Tarek hasn't been able to recover. The blue hole is a harsh, unforgiving environment where the risks of recovery can sometimes outweigh the rewards. Diving to such depths requires more than just skill. It demands an acute awareness of when to push forward and when to turn back, a decision that Tarek has had to make many times. For every body he's been able to bring home, there are others left behind, resting among the wreckage of broken dreams and ambitions. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this.